This is the most fattening pizza I've made, James, so far. It's artichoke and asiago dip on the, as the sauce on the crust, and then I've loaded it with some cheese too. So there's a lot of fat on that pizza. We'll see how he likes that. So go ahead and sit down and talk about Cosmos.
Oh, you didn't want to talk about music scene?
Well, you can talk about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'll talk about the music scene. I used to watch this show, not on DVD, when I was a kid. 15 to 16 years old. So it might have only lasted 2 years. Starred a guy called David Steinberg. One of his shticks seems to have been wearing big ties. No. On the samples of the show that we saw here, he was wearing the big ties that were very popular, the wide, not bow ties, but regular ties. That were very popular in the late 60s, early 70s. By the late 70s, they were really out. Anyway, I think he made his fame by wearing big bow ties, kind of like Johnny Carson and Marshall.
Oh?
Yeah. That's his, the great head of hair. These were his thing. The bow ties and the overbite on his too present smile. One of his co-hosts on one of the shows was Groucho Marx, and it was instructive to compare and contrast, because Steinberg was actually pretty good, did the delivery, but Groucho, every occasion you'd see a little smile kind of play around his lips.
Both James and my favorite joke there that we heard was in a woman. That was
what do you look for in a woman? So Groucho kind of, he lets it sink in. His pacing was very different from when he was young and in the movies. He slowed down, but he didn't skip a beat, in the sense that he wasn't stuttering or short for words and things like that. But he goes, his eyes just get big, but he doesn't smile or anything like that. In a woman, he puts the emphasis.
It was terrific.
What a guy. I realized that George Burns picked up the cigar trick from Groucho.
Oh,
so Groucho, like when he was in the movies and manic, the cigar was, he was kind of pumping it up and down.
Well, it is kind of a joke, isn't it, the cigar?
Really? Yeah, I know.
And so it's good to use it for comedy, and plus it gives people something to do with their hand. So that
exactly right. David Steinberg, you watch his hands, and they're all over the place. He's very nervous.
Very nervous, yeah.
It doesn't show in his face, but it shows in his hands.
Well, it does show in his face a bit. He's smiling too much.
Well, maybe that's part of it.
Okay, so try the pizza and let us know what it's
Well, it's going to be hot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't seem to be able to put up with hot spices. I don't seem to be able to
now,
put up
one thing, we will have to try to review this again later, though, because James was noticing, like he was reading through it has some liner information in here, and he was like, we didn't see this stuff.
I wasn't even reading. I could see, I don't see that well without especially in...
So he's like, where's Chuck Berry?
I could see, you see how small the picture is? There, over on the right-hand side, near the bottom. I said that to myself, that looks like Chuck Berry.
And I said, no, James Brown was in the show, but apparently Chuck Berry was in the show. It's just not for some reason the player skipped right over that part, because it's in the liner notes here. It says volume 2 and it says it should be there.
So all the ones from December the 22nd, 1969 didn't show up. Davy Jones.
Yeah.
I presume that wasn't David Bowie before he changed his name.
Yeah.
It was his name was David Jones, I believe.
Okay.
Frankie Lane, which would have.
So we'll have to talk about that stuff later, because we didn't see them. But we'll try to get the player to play it. But there's all sorts of things that we will look through. Like, we haven't looked through the bonus stuff yet. So
yeah, hopefully it's on
that.
there. You know, like it's got some interesting stuff.
Yeah. So we're still looking forward to putting this back in. I play all, and I expected it all to play, but then we see, oh, there's bonus tracks, and there's one episode that for some reason didn't play.
Didn't show up.
So, yeah.
I don't know who put this, what company put this together.
I don't know. But anyway, we enjoyed watching it.
I enjoyed it a lot more than Pauline did.
Sure.
As I was saying,
his generation.
This is late '69, you know.
Yeah.
It was a Neil Diamond cut, which I associate with, let's say, August, September of 1969.
But, like, it looks like this show was just wrapping up at this time.
Well, I think it didn't last long.
But maybe either it didn't wrap up there, or they kept playing reruns. Because I remember that foot when I was a little kid, the great giant foot, big Sasquatch.
Yeah, it's bigger than a gorilla. It's Sasquatch. Or it's,
oh yeah, I guess he was calling it a gorilla, wasn't he?
I can't remember.
I think so. Anyway, it's a giant foot, and part of I guess an ankle and whatever. Anyway, I remember that from when I was a little kid. So, and it wasn't as much as you may think. Oh, she looks ancient. I was not alive in 1970, so.
Not even close. And this was 1969, just after Woodstock, so they had to have John Sebastian there.
Well, it was 1972. It was 1970.
As well, but where is the?
As well, I should point out.
No, it did say two. See all these shows. Oh, yeah. This one's early.
1970.
Early.
So, anyway. James, how's your pizza?
It's good.
So, would you say this super fat pizza is better than the vegan ones and stuff like that I've been giving you? Or?
Fattening is fun. There's a little alliteration for you. But you don't need the alliteration to help you remember that, because you folks at home. Fattening is fun.
So it is tastier, this pizza.
Not much more, but it is.
Yeah.
You had some tasty pizzas going on without any cheese.
Yeah.
Many.
Well, and some of them I had cheese whiz, sorry, not cheese whiz, cottage cheese. I didn't have any with cheese whiz.
I think that's a little bit different.
Cottage cheese?
Well, I mean, in terms of fattening.
I think so. I think cottage cheese is healthier than this other stuff. But
excuse me, cough.
I could look on the package and
something went
figure out the fat. But I seem to remember there's not as much there. There's a lot more protein and not as much fat in the cottage cheese. But anyway. So, I guess it's off for you to talk about Cosmos now.
And that's not the flowers.
Oh, poor James.
That's not that.
He was too excited about the pizza.
No, it's just maybe I got a bit of a chill yesterday walking through.
Oh yeah, he got rained on. We went to the Japanese garden. He did, yeah, and it's his own fault, really. Because we were in the Japanese garden and we look up at the sky and James like, ooh, that sky, we might get a thunder shower. And so at first he was like, oh yeah, we better go. And then I was going, and he starts talking to the lovely ladies at the gate again. And so I went to the washroom, and I went back to the garden. Oh, he's still talking. And so I walked in the little garden a little bit more, and then I went out, and I'm like, okay, James, I'm going home. And I got home, and I didn't get, like, I could hear the thunder and stuff, and I'm like, oh, am I gonna get hit? But I got in, and I didn't get hit. And when it came down, boy, did it ever. It was just like the whole sky let loose and pouring. And it didn't only pour for just a little while. It kept going and going. So, like, when I got home, I tried to put on some corn for James, and thinking that he'd get in right after me, thinking that, oh, he will come. But no, so I put on the corn. I had to come out with an umbrella while it was hailing, and shut off the grill for the corn, and just go, okay, it's not getting cooked right now, because I didn't want to risk, like, I don't know what could happen. I don't think you should have it, like, the electric grill really isn't made for outside anyway. Having it plugged in and on, that would have not been a good idea. So I had to turn that thing off. Anyway, then James shows up, and he's just soaked. And he takes off his shirt and he hangs it up, and then there's this puddle underneath the shirt because it was that soaked. So I mopped up the floor under the shirt. And so that's when we were watching Music Scene, is when James was trying to dry off a little bit.
Yeah, so I read the clouds that I was reading,
yes,
but I didn't read the clouds behind.
Oh.
Oh, the ones that I could see, the major part of the storm headed north of you. Mm-hmm. The clouds that I saw, there was kind of a bridge of clouds heading south. Mm-hmm. And I could see that it was, the main part of the cloud was heading north of here. And so I saw the clouds that I saw as a bridge, and I could see there was no rain coming out of it. Mm-hmm. Not even virga, which is rain that evaporates before it hits the earth. Mm-hmm. The clouds, they were kind of like broken up cumulonimbus, but there was nothing coming down. So there was nothing up there. So I kept on going. And I made it to past the schools. Now, I didn't run. In the old days, before my 5 fractured vertebrae, I would have made it back here easily by the time the rain came down. But the first drops, I'm going, I don't like the look of them. You know how when you see, usually with rain, it's wee little drops?
Yeah.
But these were, on the concrete, they were about this big. Boom, boom, boom. I go, okay, I'm going to get hit. I can't run anymore, thanks to the slackadaisical doctors.
It must have been interesting walking in that.
Well, I was wearing a tilly hat. Now, my back is so bad that when I get those cold raindrops coming down, it just jars my back, each drop. But the tilly hat was able to cut out much of that, so the tilly hat was a little bit of a overhang of the back, not just the front and the side. Kept me from getting burned, though, yesterday. It was a very good tilly hat, the best one I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Because the way I put it about tilly hats, Pauline, yesterday, it seems like a tilly hat, once you put it on, adds 10 years to your age.
Yeah.
I think it's because you see a lot of older people wearing it. They're sensible kind of things.
Yes, because once you age, then you become more sensible.
You're not worried about getting, you don't want to worry about getting burned.
No. And you don't worry about fashion as much. You don't worry about looking a certain way, and you worry more about feeling a certain way. You don't want to get burned. Yeah. You know better.
The thing I don't like about them is the top of the hat always seems crushed. So it looks as though you've been carrying around cans of water the way they do in Africa on their heads. Mm. So it looks as though you've been carrying a can of water in your hand. It's all swashed down.
All right.
Pretty old-fashioned. Anyway.
Well, they work.
But they are sensible. They've got, you know, here in Lethbridge where we get a lot of rain, it's absolutely essential with something.
Yes.
With a brim like that. That's,
yeah.
That wide.
Because something like this, it flies like a flying saucer.
That's what happened yesterday, and
yes.
It wasn't.
And you have to constantly be putting it back on. It's good to have a strap. I could put a strap on this thing, and I might if I care, but so far I've just chased it down and put it back on, and that's fine for me. All right, so what are you going to talk about the cosmos?
We're starting to talk about John Mitchell, not the corrupt attorney that was, I believe he's the Attorney General for the United States under Richard Nixon, at least at the beginning. Then he was indicted and convicted of very serious offense.
What did I do with it?
He should have spent the rest of his life in jail. Real sleazeball. I think he was a former governor or something like that of Maryland. So there's a different guy, maybe 200 years ago. And he came up with this concept of dark stars because he was working with Newton's idea that light's a particle. So therefore, if you got a massive enough star, light wouldn't be able to escape from it. It would get glommed up into the star or against the star. Garbage. Light is a wave. Yep. Light is a wave, not a particle. Has no mass. No, they, you know, like when they start saying no mass, no mass, I start developing Spanish. I say no mass. I don't want to hear it anymore about light not having a mass because they're saying he's a physicist. Pretty well any self-respecting, over-respecting physicist nowadays says light is a particle. It has no mass. When they start yapping like that, I say, no mass, no mass, no more, no more. I don't want any more of that garbage. That's paradox talk. That's medieval talk. That's the somewhat like the idea that God is three things, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Physicists wouldn't like going around saying, hey, you know, like, look at that. God exists. He's Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. But then they go around doing stupid medieval things like that. Light is a wave and a particle. It's not quite as bad as having three things in one, but it's two things in one, no. Two things in one sounds like, you know, like an advertising slogan. Tide, it's two things in one, or whatever. So, no mass, or as Susan Powder used to say, I'm not going to use her formulation, I'm going to change it. Stop the madness, okay? Stop the madness. Okay, so massive star. Not even light can escape its grip. You know, DeGrasse Tyson put it. You know, they see Mitchell as anticipating black holes. Yeah, he did. So no getting over it. They figure that 1 in 1,000 stars are a black hole. Yeah, no. Cygnus X1, a big source of X-ray. So somehow or another, out of what they see as a black hole, Cygnus X1 or something like that. It sounds like a Bell X1 or something like that. A exploratory kind of like pioneering kind of jet vehicle way back when, 50s or something like that. Bell X1 was their X2. Can't remember. X probably stands for experimental. But anyway. X-ray, I think the X in the case of Cygnus X1 stands for X-ray. So it's an X-ray source. You know, like X-rays are kind of like light. They're part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Why would X-rays escape from a black hole? Yeah, it's supposed to be coming, I guess, from the edge of the event horizon. No, why would it? Or why would they? They'd get glommed up into the black hole too. Just because they're X-rays and they have a shorter frequency than what we think of it, strictly speaking, as light, doesn't mean they're not light in the extended sense. Just like infrared rays are light. Ultraviolet rays are light. So yeah, you know, like they've got to have signs. Black holes. They say, oh, you know, like you can tell from the gravitational pull. Okay. Gravity pulls on things. Guess what? Electricity pulls on things. Which is stronger? You know, electricity is something like, I believe it's 1 × 10 to the 38th times more powerful than gravity. I might have got that 10 to the 38th means that's how many zeros you got after the 1. Now, I could be wrong. It would be like 10 to the 36th or something like that. But that's a lot of zeros. It's like 1 with 30 plus zeros after. That's how many times electromagnetic forces, or at least electricity, is stronger, not so much magnetic, is stronger than gravity. What's happening in what they identify, like what they say, in the middle of our galaxy, in the middle of the Milky Way, there's a huge thumping X-ray source. Because things are going around so fast, it's got to be a black hole. It's got to be a huge source of gravity there. Now, get those things, to keep these things that are going so fast around there from escaping. It's an electromagnetic field holding those things in when they're going around so fast, you stupid chimps. You see how they haven't, you know, Faraday, about 200 years ago, messing around with electricity. They haven't got around to the idea that electricity, even though they find that the Earth is, has an electromagnetic field, has an electromagnetic tail facing away from the sun, on the other side of the sun, 180 degrees removed from the sun. They were laughing about that idea until they actually sent stuff out into space. People were saying, well, we see it out there. Oh, you guys are... Yeah. Then they found it. It's called the Gegenschein. It was called the Gegenschein even before they found it, if I'm not mistaken. That's German for opposite shine. Something like that. So, same sort of thing. No, what they've, like he's talking about, wow, we're awesome, because we've discovered dark matter, and even better, dark energy. And like 95% of the stuff out there in the universe isn't typical mass, like what we have with the sun and what we have with the earth. It's dark matter and dark energy. Now, hold on a second. When we're dealing with time and geology, there's this great concept. It's really important. It's been carried too far. The present is the key to the past. Present is the key to the past. Got them in all sorts of trouble because, despite Tunguska and a few other things, and Tunguska, of course, came after the guy who formulated it. It was either Lyell or Hutton, two of these flunkies that developed the modern concept of geology. It's old-fashioned because it doesn't take into account catastrophism. Stuff changes. It's the same sort of thing with, we've talked about biology. There's such a thing as mutation. Stuff changes. And ever since the so-called the Enlightenment, scientists haven't liked change. They haven't responded to it terribly well. Everything is kind of big lumps of matter, and they don't change. When they do change, they change really slowly, over billions of years. Anyway, the reason why they conceptualize dark matter, dark energy, and stuff like that, they're looking at galaxies outside, probably even the edges of the Milky Way, and saying, the stuff travels too fast. What's holding it in? Oh, there's got to be dark matter. You see how that is? And then they go with dark energy. You know what dark energy really is? It's electricity. Yeah, that isn't turned on. It's just like our tail here. It's electrical, but it's not turned on. You don't see it. With a comet coming in from the farthest reaches of the solar system, it doesn't turn on until it gets, if I'm not mistaken, well within the orbit of Jupiter. It's flying past Pluto, it's flying past Uranus, it's flying past Neptune, and its tail isn't turned on. But that doesn't mean it's not electrical. Now, comets have two tails. One is made out of matter, but the other one, I maintain the important one, is the electrical one. Dark energy is electricity, okay? So you don't go around saying, oh, there's this weird stuff happening in galaxies and stuff like that, in the interior, around the core, and then even on the edge, you know, like the stuff's going around too fast. Let's just posit dark energy. No need. You know, here's a concept for you guys. It's a medieval concept, but it is so useful. It's called Occam's razor. Okay, thou shalt not multiply entity, or the simplest explanation is the best. Something like that. Dark energy. No, go with electricity. Are you guys stupid? That's a rhetorical question, okay? I don't need an answer, and anyone with any sense out there doesn't need one either. You guys are, you physicists out there are drooling idiots. And you've been that way at least since Einstein. It's over 100 years. Get some sense. You know, like, I don't believe in people slapping you upside the head, but knock your head against the wall or something. Do something yourselves. God, you guys are stupid. And the big trouble is you think you're the hottest stuff, they'll say, going. You think you're the stuff. But I'm avoiding using a 4-letter word there. You guys are really hot stuff. Okay, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson, well, once he got on black holes, whoa, you know, like, all of a sudden you're realizing, this dude is a, I better not say it, he's got a dark star inside of his head. It's just empty. And, yeah, because I don't want people playing the race card on me. I want you to understand that my dad maintained very strongly, on my mom's side, there was a woman that wasn't in the family photos. Her name was Easton, I should say. And the reason why my dad said is because she was African American. And, you know, like, I'm afraid of you guys knowing I have African American ancestry. Okay? And both my mother and father maintained that we have indigenous American ancestry. And that make me a pretendian? I like to think not. You're disrespecting my parents if you say that. I don't appreciate that. So, yeah, don't play the race card with me. So he starts gibbering about there'd be another universe inside a black hole. What would happen, you know, like they show him